The night smelled like rain and rusted metal when he saw her, curled behind a grocery store dumpster like something the world had decided to forget. The flickering security light painted her in broken shadows, and for a moment he thought she was just a pile of discarded coats. Then she moved, slow and stiff, and the sound of his own heartbeat filled his ears. He had come out for milk and bread, the last stop before heading home to a small apartment and an even smaller boy waiting up past bedtime. He did not know that this single moment, this accidental glance behind a dumpster, was about to redraw the map of his life. Before the story pulls you any further into that cold night, take a second and ask yourself this: do you believe in kindness and second chances, even when the world feels unforgiving? If you do, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. These stories live because people like you believe they matter. He was a single father named Daniel, a man whose life had been reduced to essentials after his wife died 3 winters earlier. There had been a time when he dreamed big, when his laugh came easily, but grief had carved him down to something quieter and more careful. Everything he did now revolved around his 6-year-old son, Leo, whose wide eyes still trusted the world in a way Daniel no longer could. Money was always tight, time even tighter. Daniel worked 2 jobs, cleaned offices at dawn, stocked shelves at night, and measured his life in bus schedules and overdue notices. He had learned to keep his head down and his heart guarded, because hope was expensive, and disappointment cost too much. That night, he had already stretched his budget further than he should have. Inside the store, he had noticed the woman hovering near the back, pretending to read labels she could not afford. Something about her posture, the way hunger bent her spine, reminded him of the months after his wife's funeral, when he forgot to eat because grief filled him up. Without thinking too hard, he bought an extra sandwich, a bottle of water, and an apple. He left the bag at the edge of the parking lot, unsure if she would take it, unsure if it even mattered. He told himself it was a small thing, barely a dent in his wallet. When he came back out later to load groceries into his car, the bag was gone. Relief warmed him for a moment, until he noticed footprints leading toward the alley. Curiosity, mixed with something like responsibility, pulled him after them. That was when he found her behind the dumpster, clutching the empty bag like it was proof she still existed. He felt a flicker of confusion when he realized the food was gone already, eaten in a rush that spoke of long hunger. The question rose in him before he could stop it, not as accusation but as concern, a quiet wondering about where that food had gone so quickly. She was thinner than he expected, her face sharp with exhaustion, but her eyes were startlingly alert, the eyes of someone who had learned to watch for danger. She did not look at him right away. Daniel felt foolish standing there with grocery bags cutting into his hands, his heart pounding like he had done something wrong. He thought of Leo waiting at home, of the milk slowly warming in the trunk, of all the reasons he should leave. But something rooted him to the spot, a sense that turning away now would be a betrayal of the man he was trying to be for his son. The woman eventually lifted her gaze, and what Daniel saw there unraveled him. There was shame, yes, but also a fierce kind of dignity, the kind that survives even when everything else is stripped away. He realized then that the food had not been enough, that hunger was only one piece of whatever had pushed her here. He felt the weight of his own limits pressing in. He could not fix homelessness. He could not rescue everyone. He was barely holding his own life together. Yet standing in that alley, with rain starting to fall, he felt that doing nothing was no longer an option. He offered what he could in that moment, not as a savior, but as another human being stumbling through a broken system. He went back into the store and bought more food, ignoring the voice in his head listing bills and warnings. Each step felt reckless, but also strangely right. When he returned, the woman ate slowly this time, as if afraid the food might disappear if she rushed it. Daniel stood nearby, unsure what to do with his hands, feeling the distance between their lives shrink and stretch all at once. As the night deepened, the story of her life began to emerge, not in neat chapters, but in fragments carried by the wind and the rain. She had once been someone else entirely, someone with a job, an apartment, a family that fractured under pressures she could not name. Loss had piled on loss until there was nowhere left to stand. Mental health struggles had followed, then a missed rent payment, then a door that did not open again. Each step down had been small enough to survive, until suddenly she was here, behind a dumpster, invisible to almost everyone. Daniel listened with an ache that felt familiar. He saw echoes of his own spiral after his wife's death, the way one bad month could become a bad year if no one intervened. The difference, he realized, was that he had Leo. That single thread of responsibility had kept him tethered. The woman had not been so lucky. The thought unsettled him because it made the line between them feel terrifyingly thin. Eventually, the cold became impossible to ignore. Daniel knew he could not bring her home, not with a child waiting, not with rules and fears and realities. But he also knew he could not leave her there. He did the next best thing, driving her to a nearby shelter he remembered from a flyer on a bus stop. It was nearly full, the staff exhausted, but persistence and a bit of grace opened a door for one more night. As Daniel drove away, he felt both relief and guilt, knowing this was not a happy ending, just a pause. Days passed, and life tried to return to its old rhythm. Daniel stocked shelves, cleaned offices, made peanut butter sandwiches, helped Leo with homework. But the image of that alley followed him. He found himself checking that bus stop again, then the shelter, then making small donations he could barely afford. He told himself he was doing this for Leo, to show him what kindness looked like. The truth was, he was also doing it for himself, because helping her had stitched something back together inside him. The woman's name was Maria, and slowly, with help from social workers and volunteers, her footing began to stabilize. It was not a straight path. There were setbacks, missed appointments, nights when old fears resurfaced. But there was also progress, fragile and hard-won. Daniel never pretended to be more than he was. He showed up when he could, brought food, listened, and reminded her that one person seeing you could make the world feel less hostile. For Leo, the story became a lesson without a lecture. He noticed his father's tired kindness, the way Daniel saved apples and granola bars in the car, the way his voice softened when he spoke about people who were struggling. One afternoon, Leo asked why some people slept outside. Daniel did not give him easy answers. He told him the truth, gently, about how life could knock people down and how important it was to notice. Months later, on a morning bright with the promise of spring, Daniel saw Maria again, not behind a dumpster, but standing outside the shelter with a job application in her hand. She looked different, not transformed in a movie magic way, but steadier, as if her spine had remembered how to hold hope. The moment hit Daniel harder than he expected. He realized that the question he had asked that first night, the one about the food, had never really been about food at all. It had been about care, about noticing absence and responding with presence. If this story is reaching you right now, if it's stirring something tender or unresolved in your heart, please take a moment near the end of this video to like, share, and subscribe. Stories like this survive because people choose to carry them forward, and your engagement truly helps. Life did not suddenly become easy for any of them. Daniel still counted pennies. Maria still faced uphill battles. Leo still had questions that did not have clean answers. But something fundamental had shifted. A single act of noticing had grown into a quiet network of compassion, one that refused to let people slip completely into the shadows. Just before we close, here's a special request. Please comment the word kindness if you believe that small actions can still change lives. Your comments remind others they're not alone. The night Daniel found Maria behind a dumpster began as an errand and ended as a turning point. It proved that even the most ordinary people, burdened and afraid, can become lifelines without ever meaning to. And maybe that is the most hopeful truth of all, that change does not always arrive with sirens or speeches, but sometimes with a paper bag of food, a question asked from concern, and the courage to stay a little longer than planned.